Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. I would like to thank Mr. Rabia Faris for his time. We are very honored to have you with us, Rabia. It's a pleasure and it's an honor. ونحن when we asked you to be with us انت ما خيبتنا ونحن مبسوطين بهالمعرفة ومبسوطين انه انت you are willing to present this webinar to LAU alumni. The floor is yours.
أنا قبل غادة in my turn I'd like to welcome everyone to this webinar. But a small thing about Rabia, when you meet him for the first time, you quickly notice a spark in his eyes and you sense the passion for what he does, which is actually to bring the best in people and to empower people. Rabia has become more than a colleague. He is a dear friend and I really consider him like a brother to me, honestly. Therefore, I will introduce him not professionally, especially that his profile was shared within the social media post and the email shots. But I will tell you some facts about Rabia. Rabia has visited more than 70 countries. Many of them has gone through challenging and tough times, which has actually shaped his research interest, which is tonight's topic. Rabia loves nature, hiking, spending time with his kids, with his dog Caramel, and this is why you will notice how calm he is. Rabia loves off-roading, bungee jumping, and other adventurous stuff. يلي هن extreme context. Well, at least they are to me. And maybe the most extreme context that he or anyone else has faced is the situation we are currently living in Lebanon for the last 3 years. And I am sure that, like me, all of you are looking forward to understand better how to cope and stay resilient in such turbulent times. So Rabia, first, note that Rabia will be speaking for around 40 to 45 minutes. He has a small presentation, after which we will open the floor for your questions, and you can type them in the QA box or in the chat box. Rabia, without further ado, the floor is all yours.
I think Abdullah كمان حابب يرحب بربيع.
بدي اشكر عن جد، يعني بعد اللي عرفناه هلا انا ما كنت عارف كل هالاشياء. I didn't know all this about ربيع، يعني side life مش professional. This is fantastic عن جد. ربيع هيدي بدها قاعده لحالها ناخذ منك اخبار. So Rabia, thanks again, and on behalf of all our guests, alumni and friends and all, we really thank you very much for your time, and we so look forward to the next hour with you. Thanks, Rabia. Thank you. Sharbel, thank you for introducing us to Rabia. And Ghada, thanks for everything.
Thanks, everyone. تفضل Rabia.
That was in the year of 2012 in a country that was experiencing extreme context. I was leading an organization that is responsible for one of the biggest digital transformation projects for one of the mobile operators. This project is swapping out a live billing system for a mobile operator that is handling 15 million subscribers. The project timeline was 14 months. More than 600 people were part of this project. 120 out of the 600 were living in this country, in this city, working in this place, away from their family, living the conditions of the country, away from their friends, super pressure and stress, as this project has never been done before. Digital transformation for this project has never been done before globally, neither with the operator nor with the vendor. I was on the top of the organization. I was the leader of the team. Being a leader, it always feels good when it's success. but also being the leader, you feel most of the time lonely because you need to be the one who is showing the light for everybody in the team. Being the leader gets the pressure from the top management, gets the pressure from the customer, gets the pressure from the colleagues. Everybody is expecting you to perform really well. After 14 months from this project, complex project, the launch date came. And here you go. We failed in the launch. Disaster. You can imagine this failure, what impact it's going to be on our business, what impact is going to be on the operator, and what impact each one of us have been through in terms of psychological pressure. I'll tell you more about it during the presentation. But this reminded me with what Brian Checky said, Airbnb CEO. The hardest thing to manage in a crisis is not your company. It's not your own psychology. You can ask, why me? Why is this happening to me? You can get paralyzed. I got paralyzed. Or you can tell yourself, this is my defining moment. And it's up to you. I would like to thank everybody for the amazing introduction and welcome everyone. I'm very pleased and honored to be presenting on LAU Continuing Education and LAU Alumni. Great pleasure, great people, motivating people, inspiring people. It's always a pleasure to be there. Briefly, I'm sharing with you that I've always been passionate about leadership development and business development and strategy building and more. And I would like to spend the next 30 minutes to talk about resilience in extreme context. And in order to be able to do that, we need to understand what's resilience and what's extreme event, what's extreme context, what's crisis, the difference between them, and how this is affecting us personally and affecting the business performance. But everything starts with us. It's how we think and how we do things. And I always, when I talk about resilience, I always remind myself that I need to talk about myself, about the individual, before going outside the individual. Because if we're not strong enough, smart enough, resilient enough, we will not be able to achieve anything. So, simple thing, hydrate. Meaning, this is for me as an individual, meaning that our body is made up of 60% water. And if we dehydrate, the first impact is our brain. That means we will not be able to think properly if we are not well hydrated. Drink water. And this is what I'm trying to do right now. Water is very important to the body during any time, and especially when there is pressure, there is a crisis, there is an extreme event. So make sure that you are hydrating. The second one is resting. Imagine that you have a computer that you open more than 10 windows at the same time. And this is exactly what happens with us whenever we have a crisis or whenever we have an extreme event. We start thinking about everything at the same time. The computer will crash and our mind will crash. So if we don't hydrate well, we don't drink water well, and we don't take a break, get rest, we will not be able to think properly. That means we will not be able to do anything, or we will not be able to make any good choices. So if I will do something today, I would like only you to remember the song, Hydrate and Take a Break. Keep it in your mind. This is on an individual level. Now I'm gonna walk with you when you are living normally, and then suddenly an event happens. So you are in your comfort zone, and the life event happens, which is really stressful. Then, on the basis of this event that will happen, it's either faith, blindsided, or poor choices in your life that you make. Immediately, you will get different level of fear, hurt, loss, trauma, anything that will affect you because you got surprised, you are outside your comfort zone. And this is exactly what I felt when I knew that the commercial launch for this project failed during that moment. Then you need to use your mind, and you need to see what skills you already have to be able to react to such shock or trauma or event or crisis. Then after this shock, you start making sense of things. And this is the point where you decide either to move upwards or you just stand still and say, that's the maximum that I can do. Immediately, you start to identify either to come up with new skills that you have not used before, or you build on your own identity and you do the self-mastery activity. So now we reach a point that we decide on one of three things. One of them, we decide that we will be better, or we accept what happens, or we just accept loss and we become weaker than we used before. And definitely during extreme context or crisis, this process that is happening in any situation, we would like to make the best out of it. We want to bring out the best of us. And definitely from all experiences in life, we've grown from our challenges and gained wisdom and understanding to become a better person. So that's the flow of any event that surprised us into different levels from our comfort zone. And this is exactly happening in most of the places. Then I'll move a little bit just to highlight that things happen in a process. Time is an important factor when we have such events or such surprises. And we need also to have this self-esteem and self-confidence that there is a place where you have to make a choice, which is a bit of success, to make a choice, either to use your skills and get yourself together to move on, or you just surrender. But most of us want to be better people and stronger to face such events. Now I'm gonna share with you all certain definitions. I'm gonna talk about extreme event. What is an extreme event? I'm gonna share with you what is a crisis, what is crisis management, and what extreme context, because it's very important to differentiate between them. And based on that, we're gonna come up with how can we bring the best out of the leader and out of the follower. So an extreme event is an event that have the potential to cause massive physical, psychological, or material consequences that occur in physical or psychological proximity or organization members. This is unbearable by those organization members, and it may exceed the organization capacity to prevent those events. And this is what I want to say, that You see this picture. What happened in Beirut blast is an extreme event. It's one event that have caused all this massive and psychological, material, physical damage to many people and to the lives of the people, which has been unbearable until now for all of us as Lebanese and even globally. So this is an extreme event. Leadership, this is why leadership matters. Had the Lebanese leaders paid attention and acted on the warnings concerning the cargo from the beginning, maybe if they did that, the devastation would have been minimal. I'm just highlighting this because leadership is very important, resilience is very important. So this is the definition of an extreme event. Now let's go to see what is crisis. What's the difference between a crisis and an extreme event? Crisis has been defined that is a situation that threatens high priority goals, which suddenly occurs with little or no response time available. So crisis, we don't have time to respond to it. It happens suddenly. We are not expecting it. However, the extreme event is something that you can expect that it might happen. And it's related that something affecting the priority goals. Adding to that it has a low probability, because if we know that the crisis is happening, we get prepared for it. Okay, so we talked about the extreme event, we talked about crisis, and the difference between extreme event and crisis. Crisis is something that happens quickly, suddenly, not expected. There is no time to react to it. However, the extreme event is something that might happen in this country, expected to happen in this country, and the time is not, it shouldn't be a big surprise. The extreme context is an environment in which one or more extreme events are occurring at the same time. And this is why we say Lebanon is the place where can be clearly a very good definition to extreme context. No surprises, all the different extreme events are happening at the same time. All the events are affecting the physical and psychological and material consequences of the nation and of every and each organization. So we talked about the event, we talked the extreme event, the crisis, and the extreme context, which is the extreme environment that we are living in. It's very good to have this kind of understanding of those terms so that we move on. And you can see here, most of the crises, most of the extreme events are happening in Lebanon at the same time, as we can see here. Okay, again, so I started my speech here talking about hydrate and rest. Hydrate and take a break. So all the things, extreme events and the extreme context and crisis are something that are external. So we need to look into ourselves and we need to strengthen and empower ourselves from inside to be able to handle all the different external things that are happening. And that's why to be able to be a resilient individual, you need to go back to yourself and move on. So what's the trick here? The trick is that we are living in extreme context, meaning we shouldn't be surprised. We know that the extreme events are happening. So we are living in this country. That means we have a responsibility on ourselves that to be really skilled, empowered, and have all the needed muscles to survive in this country. I'm taking Lebanon as a country because I know not most of us and the attendees are living now in Lebanon, but it's a good example to reflect on extreme context. So if you decide to live in Lebanon, you need to strengthen and empower yourself, and then move and empower the people around you, the close circle, your family. And if you are a leader in a team, you need to go and empower the team members so that you will be able to be resilient whenever there is something that might really hit you. And here comes a simple example. And I want each one of us in this presentation or in this meeting, there is an exercise called the I and the R, the identity and the role. And we need to take only 1 minute. This minute, I want you to think really deeply. The I is the identity and the R is the role. I have an identity and I have a role in life. The role that I have in my life are all the responsibilities that I give outside myself. I give others. The I are the things related to me as Rabia. So what I would like you to think for a minute, only a minute, to remove all the responsibilities in your life. If you are a mother, or you are a father, or a brother, or a sister, or a manager, or an engineer, or a doctor, all these are responsibilities, all these are roles. If you remove them from your life, what is left for your identity? In other words, what do I do for myself as an individual, and what I do for others being a responsibility? So I want you to remove all your responsibilities and give a score for yourself. How much is left from 10? If you score everything on 10, how much is left for you? I always give the example that if you spend most of your time at work, that means your R is very big and your I is very weak. So I'll be silent for a minute and drink some water. So you need to remove all of the responsibility from your lives and see what is left inside you and for you. And if you want, you can put the number on the chat or keep it for yourself. All right, so I'm gonna stop now. And I want to share with you that you need to really work hard to score 7 on the identity, meaning that 70% of the things that you do and 70% of the time that you spend should be reflecting and add value to you as an I, because all the other responsibilities are different than you. In order to face extreme context and crisis, your I should be really high, not more than 7 to be able to do that. Most of us scored 3 today, but I encourage you to move from 3 to 7 step by step, so that whatever happens around you doesn't really shake you. Right. Thank you for spending the time on this activity. I'm gonna move on, and I want to say here that these are normal reactions people face after experiencing trauma and abnormal situations that affect their normal functions and daily living. So the loss of purpose, loss of meaning are things that affect us if our I is very weak. And that's why we need to empower ourselves. So we talked about extreme event, we talked about extreme context, we talked about crisis. It's very important now to display and talk about resilience. And resilience, I always remember the spring, that whatever you do with it, it goes back to its strength and to its shape. And that's the ability to adapt to adversity while staying mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually healthy. And here, I want to stop a little bit and I want to share with you what I did when this thing happened during the launch. What happened exactly? I got really traumatized. I got frustrated. My boss started calling me. Top management are very upset. The customer was very upset. Nobody knew what to do. The team lost confidence, and we were like more than 120 employees working on this project. So what I did, I kept my feeling inside me, tried to make sense of things. And I told myself, this team that has been working for 14 months, they managed to have skills and they are able to do that. So I called them to the 7th floor in that building. Everybody was there. And the only thing that I said, whoever managed to work on this 14 months means that you are the best one to fix this problem. I will take for the whole responsibility. I trust you. Try to troubleshoot and work on it. And I promise you that a lot of people came to me and said, we were surprised that you were not blaming anyone. And this is the proper reaction. And I managed to do this correctly, even though I failed previously in other experiences to do the same. But experience helps you to do the right reaction whenever there is a problem. And the things that are important in the leadership skills during extreme context are very important. So I'm going to share with you Gene's model quickly. What are the leader skills that are important to you? Self-awareness is very important. Awareness of others is another thing that a resilient leader needs to have. Authenticity is very important. You have to be the leader that is genuine, that people, like whenever you talk, trust you. Emotional reasoning, it's not important just to have a good discussion. You need also to go deeper in the things. You need to understand the backgrounds of things before taking any decision. Self-management, to be definitely resilient and not a moody person. And of course, empowering others all the way. So these are the different kind of resilient foundation for the resilient leader are very important to apply. And I thought of sharing it with you. Asking for help during extreme context is a very critical and essential point to recover and stand on your feet again. There is no shame in failing. Sorry, there is no shame in falling. The shame is in failing to ask. And another quote that I think it's very relevant here, there is no such thing as wrong weather, only the wrong clothes. So being resilient, it doesn't mean just to be psychologically or emotionally accepting the situation. It's you have to be also competent enough to be able to stand and face such situation. So again, when you are in extreme context, that means you are living in a place that you should expect disasters, you should expect crises. And that's why you should be already well prepared and resilient enough to be able to handle the situation. Not just resilient psychologically and emotionally, you have to be competent, you have to have plan B, plan C, because you decided to live in this extreme context place, you need to be ready for it. And this applies also to organizations. If your business in such an extreme context space, you have always to be ready for such situation. So the formula for it is coping, grit, emotional intelligence, and so I'm not sure if you can read my handwriting, but there is an activity that I do it for myself to be able to keep the balance in my life. And during extreme context, it's very important to understand that a lot of things in your life will be disrupted. And in order to keep the balance, you need to understand that there are 6 different things in your life, 6 pillars. If you manage at any point of time you to have 3 of them working, then you are in good situation. Health, which is the physical health, peace of mind, the mental health, relationships. Always, whenever you are in such place, make sure that you have good people around you to support you. Money, career, education, contribution, and spirituality. So these are 6 different pillars in your life. You always need to take care of it. We don't have the time to go into details in it, but keep them in mind, think about it. You don't need to have all the pillars in your life working well all the time. Make sure that at least half of them, you know how to deal with it and maintain it so that you count on them in times of extreme context and crisis. So what I'm gonna do, we talked about asking for help because this is something very important. In extreme context, we talked about the importance of leadership, importance of the team competence and ways of working, importance of making sense and decision-making. In terms of high-speed resilience, resilience is important, but high-speed resilience, it's even more relevant. And of course, time management. We talked about empowerment, empowerment of yourself, empowerment of others, psychological empowerment, and empowerment of the process. Yeah, I mean, empowerment as a process inside any working organization. Again, one thing before I leave you with 3 things as tools that you need to build as strength being a resilient leader, to remember them. But before going there, I want to share with you this thing. Leadership is very important. And here I'm talking about, because, you know, leadership is a tripod. You should have a leader, follower, and common goal. If you have these 3 things, then there is leadership. But meaningfulness is the important thing that is very meaningful during extreme context. Why? Because each one of us, if it's part of a team or leading a team, if you feel the value of your presence in this organization, that means you will be able to understand the organization commitment, work effort, do the extra effort, and also if you're happy at work, you're gonna be a good family member. You go back home happy, proud of what you do at work, and you will spread positivity and empowerment within your family. So that's why leadership is very important in extreme context. That's why the relationship between the leader and the follower or the team member is very important, and it's not a responsibility only for the leader. Even if you are a team member, you can contribute to this relationship with the leader. You talk more to your leader or to your team members, then you will know more how valuable you are in the organization. Then you will understand more about the organizational commitment. You will do the extra work to get success and performance in the organization, and it will make you a good family member when you go back home. The 3 things that I want to leave you with are 3 criteria that we need to be well prepared before the extreme event happen. Once we know that we are traveling to an extreme context country, or we are joining a high reliability organization, or we are joining a company that is operating in a high extreme thing. there are 3 criteria that are very important. One of them is energy. The third one is energy. You have to have energy. And the best way to have energy is to apply the rule of 8-8-8. I'm not sure if some of you heard about 8-8-8, but 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, real work, and 8 hours for yourself, for your identity. That's energy. The second important thing is the adaptive intelligence, not about being like really intelligent in math or in chess or coming up with strategy. The adaptive intelligence, meaning you have to adapt to the surprises that come in life. So the third one is energy. The second one is adaptive intelligence. And guess what is important in the first one? It's integrity. It's the ethics. It's the values. Imagine yourself, you are very energetic and you have this skill of adaptive intelligence, but this person misses the ethics and the values. Then we have a monster. And this is exactly what a lot of leaders in different countries miss. They are very strong, very patient, very skillful, very competent, but they miss the ethics, the integrity. That's why we end up sometimes in certain organization or certain countries in a place that can be considered a disaster or a thing. So the 3 things that we need to work on whenever we are living in an extreme context is integrity, make sure to understand our values, make sure that you are energetic, and make sure that you have an extreme skillful adaptive intelligence. That's the thing that I wanted to end my speech with, and I hope it was useful. And I'll give the floor back to Sherbel if there are questions that you would like to share.
Thank you very much, Rabia. Can you hear me? I changed my audio settings. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Thank you very much. For those who have questions, please, as discussed earlier, you can drop them in either in the chat window or in the Q&A window. And I have a couple of ones. Okay. Rabia, you spoke a lot about individual coping and individual resilience to crisis. How can companies stay resilient in times of crisis? Any quick, I know this is a big topic, but any quick tips?
It's relevant, Sherbel and everyone. But thank you for the good question, because everything starts with us. If we are able as leaders to understand what's resilience and work on it properly, then we will be able to share this and cascade this to the team. We'll be able to help empower them. We will be able to talk to them. And that's what I shared in this framework, leadership, meaningfulness. This will improve the organization commitment. The employees will make extra effort and they will be a happy member in their families. But definitely it's very important that the leader has this skill to be able to cascade it on that. And it's not about only the communication, it's also the competence. You have to be ready when you are in an extreme context in terms of processes, in terms of plan B, plan C for the things, expecting things to happen. I hope I answered the question, Sharma.
Yeah, actually, you touched on a second relevant question, which is, I became resilient and I am coping well. How can I get my team to jump on the same page? So that somebody who worked on himself or herself and is doing fine, how can you transcend that?
So I'll take you one step back, which is the definition of leadership. Leadership is like a very quick one, is you need to have a leader, a follower, and a common goal. So you are resilient, you are emotionally, psychologically, competence-wise, ready to handle this tough situation that you are living in. So this competence that you have, you will be able to strengthen the relationship with your team members, and to definitely explain to them what is the common goal that we have and the common goal that we should work towards. And in that way, this communication and being close to your team with your skills and competence, you will be able to get them on board and move ahead with you.
So mainly communication and a shared goal.
Definitely.
Okay, a question from Manan. Is the I from the IR, is the I relevant to the hours you give yourself, or what you do to yourself, even if you give yourself an hour a day? Shall I read that again?
No, I understand it, because definitely it's not the hours and the time, but sometimes, just to explain the exercise, you use a simple example that in terms of the number of hours. But I agree with you, Manal. The I is not related to the amount of time you spend. The I is about the quality of the things that you dedicated to yourself as an individual to strengthen yourself and be able to be resilient and strong enough whenever you face uncomfortable or stressful situation.
Okay. Sonia is saying energy and adaptive intelligence can be managed and developed through experience. But what about integrity? Well, this is a very relevant question to Lebanon. Can someone learn integrity? Can you teach it? And where does it come from? That's a very good point.
Yeah. So I can share with you tools how to strengthen your energy and adaptive intelligence. But sharing tools how to come up with ethics and values, this is something that doesn't happen, because each country has a certain culture, right? And everything starts at home, and then it moves to the school, and then it moves to the society that we are in it. So yeah, we don't teach them, but definitely people change. So if you are trying to work in an organization for the professional people, make sure that this company applies the values that they put on their website. Because now these terms, in terms of values, they become a cliche or just titles for marketing. But having values and applying them within the organization is something that you need to figure out before joining any organization. Organization should walk the talk. If they say integrity is one of my values, it means I should be behave in that way. So back to the question from Sonia, I think, no, it's not something that it's simple. It's the most difficult, but it's the most important thing that we should identify our values as individuals and respect them and apply them while in our personal life or in a professional life.
Thank you, Rabia. A question from Paula. Is resilience and adaptability the same thing? That's a good question. So it is like the story of the frog who was boiled to death versus the other who jumped out when he was put into the boiling water. When do we know that we are being resilient, and when do we know when we are being adaptable, and which is good, which is bad?
So adapting is something to the situation, but resilience is for people who come up after the crisis or after the extreme event, stronger, wiser, happier. This is resilience. The result of resilience is to become a better person, stronger person, wiser person. Adaptation is something that you accept, and you can have the option either to stay as you are or to be a resilient person. And this is what I shared in one of the framework of the situation. Once you work on yourself and make sense of things, build on your identity, you have a choice of achieve one of three things. One of them is to become a better person, wiser person, stronger person, and the other one is to accept the situation as is, and the third one is to surrender and move on. I hope I answered the question, Sharman.
It's for Paula actually, but yeah, I understand the question and the answer. It's fair enough. I personally have lots of questions, but I cannot put them all into these remaining few minutes. Sonia has a logistical question. Sonia, the recording will be available on the Alumni page, on the Alumni, I think, YouTube page. Abdullah or Ghada can correct me here.
YouTube channel.
Rabia.
Sorry, I said yes on LU Alumni YouTube channel.
YouTube, yeah, thank you. Any further questions from the audience? Abdullah, any input, anything else?
And I asked Sonia's question about integrity, Kaman. You know, it's very hard working with people around you who have no integrity, have no values. Yet we have to work with them. They are there. My question to Rabia, how to deal with these people? How to deal with people around you whom you cannot trust and who can at any point in time destroy everything good you're doing just because they lack integrity.
So that's very sensitive and important question that it's tough to answer directly because everything is related to the context that you are in. If you are a business owner, you will have authority to change things. If you are a leader within the organization, you have certain authority level to deal with. And if you are a member in a team that you have a colleague that you don't have any authority to deal with. From my experience, I've been into many places where I faced this type of people. The most important thing is that to have, since we are talking about business, we are talking about goals within the organization, we always make sure that the emotions and the personal things that might be affecting us because of the unethical behavior around us, we have to absorb it and always focus on the goal of the activity that we are doing. But again, if you are the leader and if you have the authority to remove unethical behavior from the organization, that would be great. But sometimes people do things unethical based on ignorance, based on unawareness. So there is a responsibility on the organization and on teams and on leaders is to create awareness. What is wrong? What is right? I'll give you a simple example. I was giving a speech in one of the schools about ethics and values. And when I said wasta, I mean, nobody got surprised or felt that this term is a bad term. Most of them are counting on the term wasta to get to the good school or good university or get a better job later on. And this is something scary when we talk about ethics and about values. So I agree with you. It's a tough, it's a challenge that we are living in, that we need to start in our home with our kids, in our teams with our team members, and try to really sit together and come up with our values and agree with them and commit to them, and then things will be cascaded. I'm not sure if I answered the question, Abdullah, but
you did. Of course. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rabia.
Thank you, Abdullah.
Rabia, the Wasta story happened in which context, in which country specifically?
In Lebanon.
In Lebanon.
And yeah, and the students were graduating, leaving school, going to university. And as I asked a simple question: what do you count on to be able to go a good university or find a job after the university? And I received a lot of answers saying, I'm gonna call my uncle, or my uncle knows this person, or very few, unfortunately, said that I'll be studying more, I'll work more on my preparation. These type of things is affected, and this is because of because we have an extreme context, and this everything like goes down like a pyramid. If we are not resilient, if we are not reminding ourselves being and about integrity, about being energetic, and the adaptive intelligence that will help us always to go back to the basics, clarify all the noise around us, and see what matters to us at this stage, and stand on our feet to be able to move on and be a wiser, a better, and a happier person after this crisis or after this extreme event.
Thank you, Rabia. In the same context, you remind me of a story. I was with a group of international people like 15 years ago. And we were discussing this Wasta thingy. Apparently, other cultures don't have it, and they don't have the word for it. Except I remember very well, Spanish, they have it. They have a word for it. It's called enchufe. Enchufe. Other cultures don't have Wasta or piston. A question from Monica, working in a turbulent country, I guess she means Lebanon. Is it possible to maintain your integrity on an individual scale?
Is it possible? My question is very direct and immediate. Yes, it is. And that's why it's very important to sit and really dig deep to understand what are our values, because integrity is a big word, and it can handle a lot of different ethics and values under it as well. So let's understand, what do you mean by integrity? You need to sit with yourself or discuss with your loved ones around you. What are the things that I don't want to compromise, even in this crisis? What are the things that I don't want to bypass? If I identify them clearly, then you will always be aligned with yourself, your inner self, and you will always able to have a clear mind, clear thinking, make better choices, because always extreme events are temporarily, like time pass and bad times pass. If we stick to our values during this extreme event, that means definitely these values will help us be aligned with our inner self, and we really become wiser and stronger. And with this bad time goes, then our growth will go exponentially in the good times.
Rabia, I have a question here, following up on Monica's question. How practical versus theoretical that is. I'll give you a small example. When I leave home in the morning, there's a place here next to Nahr al-Mout where there's traffic, and there are 2 lanes. If there are enough 2 lanes, the road does not produce any traffic. But then you have a 3rd, 4th, and 5th lane of people who come and cross the road to reach their work faster. I always say to myself, okay, I'll be an integral person and I'll stand in line. But again, I will lose 15 to 20 minutes because the others are doing these cuts. So this is maybe what Monica is saying. And amidst a culture of non-integrity, how can you alone find the drive to be an integral person?
So I don't want to be seen as preaching on theoretical things. I'm very practical in my life as well, and that's why I said at this point of time we need to sit and define our values, the things that I don't want to compromise on. If Sharbel, one of your values is to arrive at work on time, irrespective, that means you will cut and move up the others. But if one of your values is to respect the rules that is set by the country in this specific place, then you shouldn't be compromising on that. If one of your values is money, irrespective on the way how you get money, then you will do a lot of mistakes. And that's why it's good to have this list of values that together, if you respect them, then you will be aligned with your inner self and you will be behaving well. And when the bad times ends, you will grow exponentially. And if you would like, for me, the values that I have at this stage in my life are family, adventure, respect, and making a difference, and love. So everything I do, anything that contradicts with one of these five, then it means that I'm not aligned with myself. I will lose my self-confidence and I will not be able to move forward in my life stronger, wiser, and happier.
Interesting, and good to know that. We have no more questions. I will give you the floor for 10 to 20 seconds to address Lebanese people in specific. Any final line, any final comments to give to Lebanese during these, I will not call them extreme times, they are more than extreme times.
So thank you, Charlie. So the thing is, we are living really in extreme times, extreme events, extreme context, but this is temporarily. Our parents have lived in similar situations. Our grandparents have lived in similar situations. Time passes and things will come back again. And I had personally the chance to relocate, but I decided to stay in Lebanon, even in this situation, because I'm connected to the country. And if we all leave, who's going to stay? So I really encourage you all to, and not in a theoretical way, because there is always a place for your contribution. There is always a place that you can add value to your loved ones and also the people around you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabia. That was very inspiring. I look forward to further build on this topic together. And you know what I mean. We have a lot of work together. For the audience, we're keeping you abreast of all the discussions that we are holding on that front, especially for the Lebanese population, because after all, our mission as well in academia and especially LAU is to help society overcome these challenges, and we're gonna do whatever is possible, whatever we can to help everyone cope and overcome the situation. Thank you very much, Rabia. That was very quite inspiring. Abdullah / Ghada, any final remarks? I'll leave it to you.
Just to thank Rabia. Thank you so much, Rabia, for this enlightening session. It gave us a lot, Heiki, to think about. Maybe there are things that we knew already, but the way you put them, they work differently in our mind. The perspective, the motivation. Thank you so much, and we look forward to more of your expertise, inshallah, in the future. And hopefully we go for a leadership session with you if your time permits and if you don't mind.
Of course, that would be my pleasure. And thank you for giving the opportunity to share the humble experience and knowledge, and a great opportunity to meet with everyone in this meeting and the alumni. And actually, it's my honor to be with you. Thank you.
Rabia. غادة بعدك معنا؟ غادة؟ Don't see غادة، يمكن عندها issues. Rabia, thank you. Charbel, thank you. Guests, audience, thank you. Alumni, thank you very much. وإن شاء الله بنشوفكم بlecture جاي. Thanks again. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
great
you all. Thank you, Charbel. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.